Superman issue 29, legacy number 872, Joshua Williamson writing with Dan Mora on the art. Superman last time ended with Time Trapper taking Superman away from the evil, Darkseid's Legion, and the cliffhanger was a little pocket dimension with Superboy Prime, which is kind of where we pick up here. The first half of this issue in particular has a lot of Superboy Prime being meta, talking to the reader, which, to be fair, I actually think is used effectively at one point, where he's basically saying, we all know how this is going to end, like all the legions are going to show up from all the different universes, they're all going to team up, and we're going to kick the Darkseid Legion's ass. And then you turn the page and there's a 2-page spread of the future, and oh no, the Legion of this future's already been destroyed pretty much. There's a few surviving members, but most of them are dead. The future looks like the apocalypse. It looks like Terminator 2 has happened here. Oh no.
Three dead colossal boys. Their skeletons just strewn to the ground. So yeah, I did like that. Although I thought that Williamson was going to have, a different kind of Superboy Prime, and one that, like, hey, he's learned from this, Infinite Crisis till now, and him being put into this pocket universe. And no, he's still as annoying as ever. He's all the parts of fandom that I really don't like put into one thing. And that's a bit annoying, but I feel like it's annoying by design. And it really makes a big difference in the voices, though, between regular Superman, our Clark Kent, and then Superboy Prime. So, in pages where they're speaking back and forth a lot, at least you can tell that Superboy Prime's a super annoying one. So I appreciate Williamson for that.
Yeah, apologies for the squeaky chair, everyone. I should have muted my mic before I had to deal with the cat. But anyway.
That's why I kept talking in a run-on, because I was trying to talk over the squeak.
Yeah, I said last time that I was probably going to enjoy this arc more than most of Williamson's Superman run, just because there's like a... it's not just his like story. This is building into everything that's going on, because we're doing Darkseid Legion stuff. Obviously, some of the pivots were taken here, and some of the things he's doing with Superboy Prime, I assume, are maybe more his thing. But it's building relatively effectively. The big story points this issue really boil down to two things. One is that they think that they need to find Booster Gold to fix everything, and the surprise here is that Superman says, much like when Connor Kent is brought up on this podcast, he goes, who? And
I can't win.
So something has erased Booster Gold from everyone's memories in the present day, and Booster Gold has been under basically prisoner for who knows how long. We know that he was around in like the future for 2 years before he got captured by the Darkseid Legion, but he does not know how long he's been captured by them. So it might have been years and years at this point. It's hard to tell.
He looks super gaunt, and he has a beard and longer hair than what we're used to. Kind of looking like Ollie on the island a little bit. And so, yeah, timey-wimey, who knows? But I thought that was definitely a curious thing, him being there for 2 years, because it just seemed like when we read the All-In special, that was almost immediately he got captured. So, I wonder if it's a timey-wimey thing, that we just picked up where the important part with Booster.
It could be. It could also just be a mistake in the writing. Or like,
could be.
They changed their minds at some point and they'd already written that. It's like, oh well. Also the Legion here that are still around have acquired a Brainiac drone from the Absolute Universe, because they talk about how it's like Darkseid's like essence is infused in every single atom. So it's like, okay, that's kind of interesting, especially since the one example of Brainiac that we've seen from the Absolute Universe was particularly scary and whatnot. So,
and there was a ton of them, right? Because the Brainiac that we followed in that issue, was, I forget what the number was, but it was super high. So you got to think there's a bunch of other drones out there as well.
Well, I think that was all of them in the Absolute Universe on that ship, but I don't know how much of them were still around after that Brainiac like took over. I don't know, did he like kill a bunch of them, or did he keep them on as his own army? I'm not entirely sure, but I just thought that was interesting, because like the Brainiac issue of Absolute Superman was particularly memorable and distinct. So Anyway, there's also a twist here at one point where basically one of the Legion members turns out to actually be a Darkseid Legion member in disguise.
It was Cosmic Boy, so which I thought was being again. Booster Gold, they're going who? We got the death of 3 legions at one time. And again, I can't win. Though the things that I like seem to be the stuff that DC wants to, kind of use as fodder for these type of things. And so when we get introduced to Cosmic Boy, who has magnetic powers, he's digging with a shovel, and I thought, that's peculiar. Okay, maybe something happened. We don't know. There's been this big
Turns
war.
out you and Superboy Prime are two of a kind. Peas in a pod, if you will.
Stop. I don't need that, Pete. Again, I don't. Yeah, I know what I said. He's the parts of fandom I don't like, but that's a part that we line up on. All right.
You are the Superboy Prime of this podcast.
You know what? It is. I do like punching things. I mean, I did threaten to beat Connor with a crowbar. So, just give me some anti-monitor armor. It'll be good to go. But yeah, so he noticed that something wasn't quite right. And it turns out that Cosmic Boy is Chameleon Boy, who is the shapeshifter of the Legion of Superheroes in disguise. And he's basically been a spy figuring out where our good Legion members that are left. And he has his attack. And Dan Mora's art for him looks really cool because Chameleon Boy already can take any form. And Dan Mora does this really cool, makes him look very scary and almost like a parademon, which I think was cool.
And just to be clear here, we're talking about the Darkseid Legion version of Chameleon Boy. Not the regular one.
Not the regular one.
Yeah. And in the same way that obviously we've been dealing with the evil Saturn girl last issue, and then we see her again at the end of this issue, but because when they arrived, the regular Saturn girl's lying dead, and Superman's obviously a little bit distraught at that sight.
Which is the one that we get from mainline DC continuity. She has the shorter hair.
Yeah.
That was the one that's our main timeline version. So when they talk about the 3, I don't know if you're familiar with this, Pete, or if our viewers are. But the 3 different legions are the mainline one that John's restored, right, through Superman, Brainiac, and that whole arc. And they're the ones that Superman would go visit in the future when he was Superboy. And then you have the 3-boot Legion, which is Mark Waid's Legion, who he did the reboot in like 03, 04, and did these new takes on the character. So instead of Colossal Boy, growing in size, he was actually a giant that shrank. So there's some spins like that. And then the 3rd Legion was the Legion Lost from this Splinter Off timeline, and that's where we get the Flash Descendant XS. She was a member of the Legion, and there's a bunch of, unique members to there that aren't quite the same as ours. So
there's something really special about the Legion as a concept, in that inside of this nerdy DC universe, the Legion's this extra layer of its own unto itself nerdiness that most DC fans don't even want to deal with. Right? Most DC fans don't even want to bother with the Legion. It's the one part where we put a line, we put a wall, and say, nope, this is where my fandom ends, is right in front of the Legion of Superheroes. And that's just, I feel like every attempt I've had at trying to read a Legion thing has just left me going, what are all these characters? No, I'm done. and
because we have Superboy Prime here, we can look at this in the meta negative or narrative too, is that this is kind of also undoing anything that Bendis had done with the Legion, because that was the last Legion that you tried, and now we're just kind of scrapping. I feel like at the end of KO, whatever that leads to, if they do decide to reboot the Legion again, it's going to be this fresh start that has nothing to do with these 3 that are laid to waste by Darkseid's Legion.
And the time before that I tried them was the 2 Legion books that launched at the start of the New 52. So it feels like every time I try a Legion thing, it doesn't last very long, and then it gets retconned because everyone hated it. So that said, people that pay to have Pete read things, if you paid to have him read the Mark Waid Legion, I think that would fit in very well, because that's some really good storytelling, and you get to know the characters really well. Supergirl shows up, so instead of Superboy showing up as a member, Supergirl has like a 12-issue arc through there that Mark Waid plays with. So it's pretty good. That's my favorite version of the Legion, for whatever it's worth. But yeah, it definitely is that thing that there's a wall around where
I feel like for the longest time for me, that was the Kirby universe, like the whole New Gods. Like I knew who the New Gods were. I understand part of their lore, but it really has taken, through Birds of Prey with Barda and Ram V with the New Gods, and then even Tom King through Mr. Miracle.
Started with him, I would assume, because he was first in that order.
Yeah. But for really me to come around and try to look up more of the lore and what makes these characters tick. So, maybe that story's out there for somebody with the Legion,
Maybe.
But it doesn't seem like that's in the cards right now.
Look, when they announced the Tom King 12-issue Saturn Girl series, right? Maybe we'll be onto something and it'll unlock a door. But thus far, every attempt I've had, and admittedly, I've not read the classic stuff and these big runs that people are appreciative of in the past, and they're probably good, but every attempt I've had at trying a new Legion book has left me feeling just at every case. So, it is what it is. But which is not to say that I'm having a problem with this Darkseid Legion stuff, because it's effectively just an army for Darkseid, right? Like, obviously, I'm a bit aware of Saturn Girl, but like for the most part, they're just kind of like an army. Like I don't really think about the individual characters, and I doubt they're ever going to go super deep into any individual member of Darkseid's Legion. What
I like they're using them for here, and whether it was Wade's decision or Williamson's or Scott Snyder with KO. The concept of Darkseid taking this concept that was based around Superman's hope of the future and his loneliness, and it gave him a place of belonging, and completely warping that, right? That's what makes it work for me. It's this, shadow version of that gets into they make you feel lonely, right? They take all of that. There's no hope. They're this, army with that only wants to destroy and ravage and all those other things. So again, very smart to use the Legion concept in that way.
Yeah, and as far as, I think in general all this stuff is probably what those people in a room are all sitting talking about on that yearly writers retreat when they're planning and mapping out the next year or two of stories. Like, I don't know if one writer is at the top of the tables making all the this is where we're going with all this. Like, obviously Snyder's writing KO, so he's obviously in charge of that particular series, but it seems like Wade, Williamson, and Snyder seem to be the ones kind of like shepherding like where the big universe story's going right now. It's felt that way for a little bit, I would say. I don't think it's a surprise that Wade did the last couple of crossover / events, and Williamson had a hand in a couple before that. So it just it feels kind of natural that this is it's not a surprise to me that it's a Williamson book and a Wade book that are both doing heavily like tied in stories to the overall universe stuff right now, and then Snyder's coming in and doing the event that's starting in like a month or two's time. So all that clicks together and it makes sense that it's their books that are the ones that are doing that. And as far as what the overall direction is right now, I'm having a decent time with it. I'm enjoying the build to it. It's not like an issue of this, even though I'm enjoying the build that it's doing, it's never going to compete to an absolute Martian Manhunter issue in terms of like just like how satisfying it is as a single issue comic book. But like I'm having a decent time. I'm enjoying seeing where they're going with this, booster stuff, and so obviously they get to booster. Superman is like, sorry, I don't remember you, but you seem to be important. So and Booster's like, yeah, I lost Skeets as soon as I arrived, meant I couldn't go home. And then obviously the Darkseid Legion show up, and basically they say, hey, your future's already lost, and soon your present and past will be lost too. Like Darkseid's coming, blah 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 blah. Everyone's getting shoved up Darkseid's crack is basically the gist of it. And the big twist at the end, of course, is that Superboy Prime's realized that it's a losing fight and has switched sides. He says that he is now with Darkseid's Legion. So that's where we end off on. Yeah.
And we kind of skimmed over the reason that Time Trapper takes Clark to Superboy Prime is that Superboy Prime will do the things that need to be done when the time comes, right? He has that ruthless part of him. And kind of that's why he got put away in that pocket dimension, And so I fully feel like this is a a fake out.
Yeah, you think Prime's playing them so you can do something later. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a strong possibility. I mean, we kind of glossed over mostly the first third of the issue because it was mostly just Superboy Prime recapping who he is and being meta about things. You know, I think when Clark brings up, you know, you killed people, he's like, oh, that was like 2 reboots ago. You know, like that was all that stuff in the first third. So... That was all right. Like, I think I'm enjoying the direction of like this stuff in general, right? Not specifically in this book, but this stuff in general. And I like seeing parts of it here so that I understand the puzzle better. You know, but it's not necessarily like a standout for like an event style issue. It's, you know, it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly solid. You know, I
have fun with it, and just again. Reminding me why Superboy Prime drives me nuts. It was one of those things that at the end of the last issue, I was like, oh, I didn't even factor Superboy Prime into this. And then Williamson right away makes it be like, oh yeah, he's not fun to be around. And so as a, you know, feels like that's the point of it, right? Is it where he's not supposed to be endeared to us at this point. So, you know, and I feel like when he finally does make that, if he does make that good turn to the side that, hey, no, he actually did learn from the last 2 reboots and he's not going to make those mistakes. I feel like it'll feel good.
Possibly. I think it's something, you know, often when we're talking about art, we'll talk about how some art is like house style, which is to say that it's fine, it does the job, and it's pleasing enough to look at, but it's not doing anything special or that interesting. I feel like there's almost like a house event style, and this is not an event book because it's still just Superman, but it feels like it's doing an event style story, and I would describe this as house event style. This feels like house event quality. You know, it's not standing out in the way that like a really special story does by any stretch, but it's just, you know, it's like, I almost wanted to use the word slop, but slop's a very negative sounding word. I don't want to be negative, but it's kind of just good event slop in a weird way, you know.
It's not Mora's best work, but that it's not bad. Like, we come to expect higher. Oh,
I was talking about the writing, the story. I wasn't really talking about the art.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the art.
No.
I got you.
I was just comparing how we talk about house art to house event story writing.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. But I also feel that applies to the art too, because I do feel like it isn't Mora's best effort.
Yeah.
You know, it's still very clearly Dan Mora. But I feel like there's just so much going on. It's hard to really get into the things that we like from him. But, you know, there's a lot of inspired things in there. When we see Booster chained to that big Omega symbol sign with the star in the middle, you know, like that's what I expect from Mora. And there's not a lot of that in this issue.
I think I think for me, the opening and closing is the best art because I think there's something about when they go to the apocalyptic future. I think all that stuff feels a little bit more generic generally for whatever reason, just because of the setting. Because I feel like we see apocalypses often enough. I think when we see like Booster being chained up and then like the ending with the Legion showing up, I think that's dark and it's got like this atmosphere to it in a way that maybe the apocalypse part feels almost a bit too clean, because Mora's art does feel kind of clean, and maybe the apocalyptic future isn't the right setting for his art, I guess. Whereas the opening, which is like, oh, the bright, colourful history of Superboy Prime, fits Mora to a T, because he's really good at bright and colourful and, you know, like I say, clean art, where everything's very kind of upbeat. Whereas apocalyptic future, that's where you get like a, I don't know, Montos or someone on that. Get someone with a bit of mood to do the apocalypse. But, you know, I'm not saying that I wanted multiple artists. I'm just kind of drawing why maybe it's not Mora's like strengths that it's playing to for the middle part of the issue. So
for sure.
Yeah. All right. What are you rating Superman then, Matt?
No, I'm going to go a little bit high on this. I'm going to give it an 8. Straight 8. I had a lot of good time with it.
That's fair. I think I'll just go a 7. It's good. Like, I think I had a decent time. I'm definitely enjoying this a bit more than Williamson's usual stuff. I mean, obviously, if Fram and Graf show up to team up with Darkseid, I'm going to be upset.
God, but... don't manifest that, man. There's been a lot of that lately with people saying stuff and then it happening. Let's don't. Okay. We didn't say that. Booster Gold Dat. We're gonna cut it out of time and go. Who?